I do not know how this is a strength, being a Latino in America today. Be more you. Whatever makes you who you are, explore that and enjoy it and say that, because Van Gogh got famous and he never thought he'd be famous and change the world. It's the people around you that don't realize will help you. And you may be that person or you may be the artist. But either way, we're all part of the same travel.
Welcome, Rick, to Inchin Chats. First one. I've never done it before, you know?
It's, you're starting off with a good. You're starting off with a good program, man.
I know, man. You've done a lot. You're a writer, actor, producer, speaker, pioneer, storyteller. Talk to me. Tell me. Introduce yourself to the crowd, to the public of Unching.
Oh well, it's great to be here with Gene. The reason I'm all those things is because, like every Mexican, we got to work for a job, and and that means we're like the guy in front of Home Depot. What do you got? I can do plumbing. I can do carpenter. I can do whatever tools. Gotta do it all. I can produce. I can write. I can run network. What do you need? I can do it all.
You can do
So
it
it's kind of that's the way it's always been. And in fact, I came from San Diego, and it's like when you're Mexican, you got to go north to work. Go norte, you got to go work. So I went from San Diego. I went from Chihuahua. My family was Chihuahua, New Mexico, San Diego, then L.A. So I've been in L.A. now for most of my life, working in entertainment. But I've traveled the country and the world and worked in Mexico City to New York, you name it. It's been a long, long road.
bro.
And the strange thing is about it's odd because it seems like it hasn't gotten better.
Yep.
That's the surprising part. You look and you go, I should not have these discussions now. This should be over. This should have been done. I mean,
Yep.
we went through the 60s. We went through all this turmoil in this country. This should be done. And now it seems like they're trying to bring up turmoil again.
Yep.
And the big difference is
Yep.
they're attacking us in such a way that it's no longer hidden.
Yep.
Before, the worst part was I wouldn't get a job and I would wonder why. Well, I didn't get a job because I don't know. The producer would say, "Well, Rick, you can't write that show because there's no Latino character on it. So we don't need you in the writer's room." They never thought, wait a minute, I could write any character. Why does it have to be a Latino character?
Yep.
And that's the fault of your casting to not see the reality of what America is. I mean, if in Friends, do you know any Dominicans on that episode? You ever see a Dominican or Puerto Rican in an episode of Friends?
No.
You're in New York. How
Yep.
could that happen?
Yep.
And it's the selective thing of what Hollywood does is you have one person choosing the shot, and they're like, okay, that I've seen it. It's happened to me. I was shooting a commercial years ago in McDonald's for McDonald's. I did the first McPizza commercial when they were thinking about doing McPizza. So they hired me.
Great idea.
Great idea, McPizza. So I'm so proud to say I was part of McPizza. So they they said we're talking. They're filming me the whole bit. I'm this kid. I must have been 18, and teenage kid McPizza and all that stuff. And the director, we're having lunch. He's having lunch with me, and he goes, "Hey, so what part of Italy is your family from?" And I go, "Italy. I'm not Italian. I'm Mexican." He goes, You're Mexican? Like it's a surprise. Yeah, like you're Mexican. I go, "Yes, I'm Mexican." So after lunch, we get back to work, and I'm going to film, right? And he goes, we have enough coverage on the Spanish gentleman, so
Wow.
let's just have him get out of the shot. So he cut me out of the show, but he was kind enough to call me a Spaniard instead of a Mexican. So, so it was like I was getting racism on so many different levels, and
Yeah.
and and that's the what racism is. It's a lot of well, why are we not giving this person the job? Well, just we're just not looking for this or that, thousand reasons. They're not just Latinos, but all people of color, including women. People who's the outside,
Yep.
and people don't realize this is how. insidious and how leveled and deep within our culture this is of racism. And racism hurts everybody. It's what people don't realize. It's like a cancer that destroys a country, destroys a civilization, destroys a people. And this just not just us. This goes back to the Romans, to the Spaniards. I mean, it goes back to every single person who's ever conquered another group, or any person who's ever gone over the hill to exploit a hunting field or and gathered. They chose, let's not use that tribe. We're not going to help them out, or we're going to keep them out of our area. So it is the the problem that we have encountered all our lives. And me being a writer, I tend to be talk about it because I encounter it, and I look at it and I say I want to speak about it. But it's good that the world is expanding and same time contracting. Expanding that I can talk to you in New York,
Yes.
and you can talk to me in the West Coast, and we're having a conversation. Contracting that people are scared into joining their little tribe and their groups. And I've written stuff about that the fear of the other. I fear the other. I mean, that's basically what Trump came into office with, saying fear. First thing, they're rapists, they're drugs dealers, they're bringing diseases and all these thousands. It's always fear,
Yep.
and fear is a very easy thing to capitalize on because that's what they've all done. It's
Yep.
always been the fear of the other.
When I moved out of the New York City, and I came with that mentality of I gotta protect my house, I gotta put bars, I gotta do everything, and I moved out to the suburbs, and the first thing I did, I want to put security system cameras everywhere, and my neighbor was like, "Why?" And it's like you're here in a safe place, and I understand what you mean. It's like like it's so easy to sell the idea to be afraid to not let anybody in. You know.
It's it's advertising 101. So you're not if you sat there and said it's fear of missing out. You better buy this now. You better buy it right now. It's going we're going to be out of stock, or fear that it's just going to solve a problem that you should be scared of. All these thousand things. But fear is a primary level of what human mind goes for, fear, because that's how we survive. Our survival is
And
based on fear.
one thing that I'm trying to do with Unching is just a little bit, right? To show a Dominican and a Mexican like you and I and the environment that we're in, there's not enough images of you and I. That's why that gentleman was shocked that you were Mexican because, like, wait, that's not the image that I have of a
Yeah.
Mexican. You know what I mean? So we need more. Uh, we need more of the media to tell the story, the real stories, and that's what I'm trying to do. At least in chain of that to show people like you, to tell the stories. But let's talk about your project, this project that I am so interested because one of the things that I'm still learning, and I know that I probably could learn so much from you, but that clip of the history of I love Lucy, right? I'm a Lucy, I love Lucy fan still to this day. I love old stuff like the Chapulín. You see the stuff in the
Hmm.
back, um, but I didn't know that, and the fact that there's so much history that I don't know if it's difficult to find, but we just don't know. Talk to me about your project.
Well, that kind of it came after out of Latino History for Morons by John Leguizamo. They brought me in. There was the first production they were doing professionally of the show. That it wasn't him doing it, and a lot of actors were shy of it. They didn't want to do the role. They're like, I'm not going to do it. It's John Leguizamo because two things happen: you either become a John Leguizamo impersonator,
Right.
or you become yourself. And it's a scripted play. So there's. But I reached out to Ben De Jesus, who's a great guy, and John's producer, and I knew him, and John knew of me. We had worked on projects together, and I said, I want to do my version of this, of his play, which I
Right.
think is brilliant, and let me add some things that are kind of me. And so that's how we approached it. I opened the show saying, John Leguizamo is not going to be in the show tonight, and so started.
Let's get it over with.
Get it over with. So if a Puerto Rican's in here and a Colombian, you want to leave, go ahead. But it's going to be a Mexican tonight. So And so I would talk. I go, John Leguizamo. We're very similar.
Genius.
We both have a Tesla that we now regret buying. You know, he's married to a white woman, so am I. We don't regret that because it made our score really high. So and this is using truth because when I got married, my wife was very much about, hey, you got to get your credit in line, all this stuff. And so, I mean, stuff I don't think about. I think she really was convinced that I had never survived until she came in my life, like some. But I met her Hispanic caucus meeting. She was on the board, so I thought she was Latina. It was her
Yeah.
last name was Alvin, but she wasn't. She's not at all. And so it's it's San Diego where I met her, and San Diego is where I'm from, and really shaped my life in a lot of ways. And that's part of the show. And I think what's great about it, John, if I had someone doing my show, Latinologues, that was on Broadway, I would say if I gave them the rights to do the show, I'd expect them to change jokes and change things around to make it contemporary,
Right.
because you have to. This is what writing is. Writing is actually, in terms of how it's done, is it's always it's growing, it's maturing, it's changing, it's going back to its form again. It's fluid. It is like an octopus. It's changing color. It's going. It's moving around, and that's what I like about writing, because everyone hears it, changes it a little bit in their heads. So if I say, it was a red apple,
Right.
but if I say it was an apple, well, you either see a red apple or you see a green apple,
Right.
depending on your experience with apples. If I say a Dominican,
Right.
who's the last Dominican you met, and base it on him. So,
Definitely not me. It would be a darker skinned baseball
yeah,
player.
baseball player. It'd be like an occupation,
Right.
its name tag,
Right. Right. Right.
and that evolution of image has changed throughout the years. I mean, if I remember Freddie Prinze going, Puerto Rican janitor, it's not me, man. It's not my job. It's not my job. And then I had Bill Dana, who's he was being a Latino test pilot. He goes, "What's that for?" He goes, "Oh, that's a crash helmet." And he goes, "Oh, you have a crash helmet? I hope not." So it's like, and Bill Dana was Jewish. I met the man. So I working in Hollywood, I've met all the writers. I mean, a lot of the great writers around, and one of the people I admired was Desi Arnaz because I related to him. I looked at Desi and said, "That's me." And so, in fact, I auditioned to play Desi in a movie of the week, and we came between me and the other guy who got it.
Oh,
So I felt I had to study Desi, and studying Desi, I learned everything about him. And that's what. And just like when I worked on Living Color, I had to learn everything about Black culture. I mean, I'd bother all the Black writers there. 'Cause I'd be saying, do you realize a patent for a keychain was by a Black man? I know all the facts. And they look at me and just be like, no, nothing makes any ethnic group pissed off than when another one knows more history than you do. It's like, well, you stole my land, now you stole my language. What's with you? You're Anglo speaks perfect. But
how was
um,
that experience working in Living Color?
oh,
Another revolutionary. I was in college when it came out, and it was
it was revolutionary.
revolutionary.
Like all the great movements that have changed. Well, I think they come out of necessity and accident.
Yep.
Necessity was, you know, we needed something on the air. The necessity was Fox actually said this to executive Fox told me one time. He says, we're a brand new network, and no one at Fox Network they didn't think there would be another network. It was like CBS, ABC, NBC. That was it. And
That's
all of
right.
a
I
sudden, someone
remember
said Fox. What's Fox? And when it rolled out, it wasn't even every city. It was just like six cities, so many cities. So they were had a necessity to look for new programming, and so we're looking for new programming. So in Living Color, Keenan Ivory Wayans had done "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker," and worked with Robert Townsend, all that stuff. So there was a fledgling group of Latino comedians
that.
that were trying to be seen, and so they saw his work and said, "Hey, why can't you do a TV show?" And so Keenan didn't know what he was doing, of course, but that's the greatest inventors. You don't know. You
Yep.
go, the quickest way that stops creativity is to say no. That's it. No, can't be done. No. And that wasn't the thing. Keenan thought, I got a chance. Let me put something on. And he was very methodical and good about, bringing people in and working with them. I came in first as an actor. I was going to be an actor on the show.
Okay.
And so I was the final callback. So there was like every day there was a callback. And I was the final callback. So I walk in the room and I start doing a character. And Keenan's like, oh man, not this one again. It's right out to my face. I was like, oh my. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I just heard that monologue, two guys down. And he says, another person said it. Can we have anything original? And I said, I wrote that. And he was like, you wrote that? I said, yeah, I'm a writer. He said, well, where's it playing? And I said, Los Angeles Theater Center. You can go see it tonight. My show's there tonight. It's Latins Anonymous. I created a 12-step program called Latins Anonymous. So
That's awesome.
yeah, you started. You go, I'm Rick, and I admit I'm a Latino. Hi, Rick. I first realized I was Latino. I was 9 years old, so I do this whole monologue, and so Keenan, I'd heard a guy actually say the monologue like two times before I walked in. I was like, oh man. Well, they saw the play, and it was actually published, so guys could actually grab the play. And how many Latino monologues are out there for people? So, so it's not like they can find that. You walk into the short monologue. So they were doing my work. And I said, that's my work. And I said, I'm not putting those guys down because they're smart to use it, but I wrote that. And he said, oh, okay, see you at LATC. He goes, how much is your play done? It's kind of a dismissal of me.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, $1 million in ticket sales. It's like $1 million. And that got his attention. I mean, that has got the attention of everyone in Hollywood from day one. When Tyler Perry was like, how much of your play's done? Oh, millions. And, well, we've got to do a deal with him. So there's
Interesting, huh?
a aspect of, if you're being successful in one area, maybe I can use you in my area. And so, and Keenan actually wanted to do Latino programming before he left the show. He brought me in his office, and he actually came by my office, and he brought a bottle of tequila, which I thought was really cool. And he said, "Let's do a shot."
Let's do
We
a
did a
shot.
shot, and he said, "They're gonna get rid of me." And I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah." He's like explained it all to me for some reason. I was like probably the least important person in living color. I mean, I look at it and I go, "Look, I I did write a lot of good stuff. I mean, I was proud of that. But in terms of the hierarchy, I
Yep.
was like a writer, and executive, stars, writer. But he really loved what I wrote, and I would make him laugh, and he would, I was a guy that could come up with something, because it wasn't they wanted me there. No one wanted a Mexican there. Only Keenan did. Keenan did,
Wow. That's amazing.
and but he was smart. He knew that there was a. He said, your people. It's going to be a big industry, man. There's going to be a lot of need for things, and I want you to write a pilot for me someday. And
This is
that's before that.
beautiful.
Then they got rid of him, and so that didn't write that pilot. But I've always had a really good feeling in my heart for the Wayans. They were all good to me. Marlon, Sean, everyone, because I was the man outside. I was the guy that was the Mexican among Jewish writers and black writers. And black guys would not like me being there. I mean, if I wore a living color jacket and someone in the airport saw me, oh my God, what are you doing there? I go, I'm writing the show. And they're like, what? It's like, because first of
Yeah,
all,
because do you think that they didn't like you because you were light-skinned Latino, or because
well,
you
it
were more, because you and I lean more to the lighter.
light skin. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We like
If you
I had a
were
joke.
if you were like a dark and Mexican, or with, you think that that would have been different?
I think it's almost that I don't think it's different. I think it's another reason more to dislike me. Like you look at you and I go, and if I'm a dark skinned Latino, I'm looking at you going, oh, you never encountered prejudice. But it's not, it's ignorance, because the truth is lighter skinned people encounter more prejudice.
Right.
because we're in the room when they're talking shit about our brown brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So, and we're the ones that have to defend them. Like
Yeah.
my sister's
Yeah.
really dark. She
Yeah.
was has a lot. I was a joke I used to use in my stand up. I go, my sister's very dark. She has a lot of native blood in her. I have a lot of Spanish blood in me. I know that when I was growing up, I made her build me beautiful Spanish missions in my backyard. I stole her gold and gave her chicken pox and measles. So that's reality meeting a comedy and set up in time.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I did hear a lot worse things being a light skinned Latino because they couldn't tell. But I never denied I was Mexican. I never. My father and grandparents all taught me that who I am is my strength. And many times you don't feel it. A lot of times you're like, I do not know how this is a strength being a Latino in America today, because in a lot of ways it's not. But at the same time, it is. It's like for all of us, the black community. I see a lot of prejudice that's been against black people, but that is unfortunately a strength because it makes you better. It makes you fight harder
Yep.
and survive.
Yep.
And like here's a story that's really true. Um, I was called a wetback in school. I was called a wetback. It cracked it's just like, to me, it's like, me? And they look at me. And some kid, I'm in a schoolyard, and this kid starts, pushing me around or something. And I said, hey, that's my ball. And he goes, no, man, it's my ball. And I go, no, it's my ball. I'm going to play handball. The guy takes the ball out of my hand and goes, and pushes me on the ground. He goes, well, it's my ball now, wetback. So, so of course, I get up and I beat him up. I was like, yeah, you're about to get your ass kicked by a wetback right now. So I was in a nice neighborhood, right? We came from the barrio, and my mother, who was Mexican, born in Iowa, was like, Rick's not going to grow up in the barrio because she was convinced I was going to join a gang or do some shit. And the truth is, she was right. I would have been a hell of a gang member. I would have been a good leader. I would have been really worked on it. And I probably would have
You
moved up
probably
north.
would have wrote a manifesto.
Yeah, manifesto. Got to, it's like, but the truth is the school teacher runs up. She's like, "What'd you do? Why'd you beat up Bradley? Why'd you beat up Bradley?" I say, "Because he called me a wetback." And I was like, "Oh, insulted." I did not know what wetback meant. I actually thought I, I did. I was like, wetback, dry back, quarterback, halfback, wetback. I don't know. It's all doesn't mean anything to me.
Exactly.
So she says, "Why are you Mexican?" Because I'm light.
Right, right,
And
right.
so it's like,
She was shocked.
shocked. I go, yeah. She goes, well, then you are a wetback. Now apologize to Bradley. And that is probably the moment that I became a writer because I apologized to Bradley for being a wetback and for beating him up because I didn't realize that's what I was. But the truth is, years later, you're like, wait a minute. That bitch called me a wetback. She approved that shit. I don't know what happened to her, but it wasn't me. But she wasn't there anymore. But it I couldn't go back and say, hey, you called me a wetback, and that was wrong. So I had this kind of unformed, formulated justice that didn't happen for me, and but that strengthened me. And so in my neighborhood of La Mesa, where I grew up, there was another wetback, so-called wetback. His name was Juan Vargas. And there's another family of so-called wetbacks up the street named Elena Ochoa.
Okay.
Elena Ochoa is the first Mexican American astronaut, and Juan Vargas is a congressman right now, and me, a writer.
Wow.
So out of a neighborhood and out of a world of prejudice and all this thing came three really good stories of families and people that overcame. And that's why now it's kind of bitter that I have to overcome again.
Yeah. Tough times make tough people, right?
Yeah, tough times make tough people.
I
And
think that when I think about, and every time I think of myself as an immigrant, that's what I think about. I came here when I was 11 years old, and from the beginning we had a purpose, and we still have a purpose. You need
yeah,
to come here and make sure that you make it count, because it's been so tough.
yeah,
I know what my father has gone through. I see my father, clean toilets. I started a cleaning company based on the fact that my father cleaned, everything that we do. And I tell my kids, it's like being an immigrant is tough skin. It's like you said, being a Mexican, you have all these titles, writer, everything else,
Mhm.
because we know right away that that's what it means. It means we're tough, and I think that those times that you've gone through made you who you are, and so many people. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, you have so many people that that to me, I admire, and I wanted to talk to you about. Those people have gone through tough times. Do you have anything that you feel that you have in common? You have lived, like you know, James Olmos and everybody else that you have lived history. You know what I mean? You have
Yeah,
documented history.
I did a show called Latino Thought Makers, which is me interviewing celebrities like Edward James Olmos, Danny Trejo, Cheech Marin, all these different celebrities. But this is kind of work. I worked with those guys, so I knew them. So, and I was like, oh, well, I'm doing a show. It was during the time when, once again, there was prejudice happening. People were talking about, like, virtually everything I've done has been started because of prejudice. I hate to say it. It's like,
You made it into comedy somehow.
yeah,
You
put it in
laugh
comedy because,
about
yeah,
it.
Prop 187 was happening, which was about, a horrible proposition in California. And they were like, oh, there's gonna be riots and all these things. So I said, I'm doing comedy. I'm gonna do Latino-logues. And then when Latins Anonymous was happening was another time of prejudice. So Latino thought makers came. It was after I think some incident happened, some prejudice thing, and a college approached me and said, we want to speak about Latino issues because of this thing happened. It happened with my son. My son actually was at his high school. He went to a very private high school, and some of the kids said, "Why are Latinos coming here to get scholarships? Because they're just going to end up being janitors anyway." That was the exact quote. And so I'm like, well, you don't know Latinos, and that's wrong. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to yell at some kid or whatever. So I arranged for Edward James Olmos to speak to the school, high school, and I spoke with him. I interviewed him on stage. So a lot of these things came from that. So Latino thought makers came from the fact that we're the people that create. We're the ones come up with the new thoughts and the new ways of doing things and stuff like that because out of a necessity we have to. So I want to do a thing that if you think about Latinos, you want to think of them as intellectual. You
Yeah,
want to think of them as creative. You want to
creative.
think of that. So that's why Latino thought makers. So in that I've yes I've I did Dolores. I interviewed Dolores Huerta, who I'd known through my cousin, who was Cesar Chavez's bodyguard, and I knew Cesar growing up.
Amazing.
And Edward James almost came from the fact that I wrote a sketch for him on Living Color called Eddie Almost Clean Up My Yard. It was it was hilarious. I felt bad because they were like, man, because Keenan had made fun of Mike Tyson in a sketch. And Mike Tyson had called up, it's like, you talk shit about me, I'm gonna fucking knock you out. So, so Keenan was like, no more Mike Tyson sketches. And so the riots had happened. And I said, well, I got this idea. I was at the Eddie almost cleaning up. They're like, what is the idea? And I gave them the idea. They're like, yes, write it. And they put it on air. So
That's awesome.
the thing is, Eddie, all the people around Eddie were like scandalized. This is horrible. I'm like, talking about his complexion and his skin. I mean, it was like, and Eddie laughed. He said, he called me up. He said, you're funny, man. You're funny. And in fact, he just went to his birthday party. He just had a birthday party, and he showed that sketch at the birthday party. And
Oh
he was
wow.
he was proud of it because he said, Jim Carrey played him on stage, in that sketch, and Jim Carrey really studied Eddie. I mean, learned about the zoot suit. He learned about his stuff. Jim Carrey learned about Desi Arnaz through me. We'd talk. Um, Jim Carrey's an amazing talent. I mean, when I knew him and was around him, it'd be hard. It was like it was one of those moments where you go, "Can you just turn off for a bit?" Because I'm overwhelmed. I've got
But
too much.
he was really the same way that
Oh, he was exactly that, if not more so. Now I see him now in interviews, and I've grown to admire him and like him. Because you run into people at different stages in their life. That
yeah, yeah.
stage, Jim was trying to make it. I mean, he
Yeah.
was just manic about becoming famous. I mean, that was his thing. I want to be famous. I want to be famous. I want to be seen. And I had met Jim through going to a church. I was in First Presbyterian Church. He went there too. So we both went to the same church, and he had a family. And so, in some ways, I saw that Jim change to a Hollywood Jim, fame Jim, and then now I think he's a philosophical Jim because he's realized, like let's look at Solomon, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. I mean, great men learn how things that are really were once important aren't. How it's no longer about driving the best car, getting all these things. It's really about very simple things, and that's the way I think we all come to it in our lives. For me, I love to have goats, chickens, and stuff like that.
I
I like to
love
go
that.
fishing.
I
You know
like
that.
donkeys. I'm a donkey guy. I had
Yeah,
two
it's like
donkeys back in the
yeah,
Dominican Republic.
donkeys are great. They're like, but it's funny how, and I've met so many famous people. I mean, and worked with so many famous people. I'm like Luis Guzman is the guy I worked with. I love working with him, and his family's great.
He was in Unchin.
Yeah, yeah. He's got a farm in Vermont,
Yes.
and he's got mixed maple syrup. And I'm like going, I don't know what I got to do to tell him to send me a bottle of that maple syrup, but he's a great guy. And so a lot of people that I've worked with that on my show, I chose to work with people that I happen to like and admire. And they all seem to have this. I mean, Danny Trejo, another man who's really churned his life around, went through the prison system. And I get words of wisdom from these guys. I mean, Danny Trejo said that all the good things that happened in my life have come through helping other people. And that is a true philosophy. The best things that have happened in my life has been from helping other people. So there's certain things you get from each person. I mean, Edward James Olmos, I call him Eddie, but it's like Edward James Olmos. I have
Yeah.
a great deal of respect for him because he literally is my family, and he's been a guy that he'll comment that there's only one race, the human race, and so he's a remarkable man. So I get the best thing of all these people I've met is you learn from every one of them, but learn not only from famous people, learn from a guy on the street, learn from someone you talk to. My father I admired because he could speak to anyone and have a conversation, anyone, and find something interesting or find something he didn't know before, all that stuff. So it's like we need each other to become better of who we are. I've taught acting for years, and I don't do it as much because I'm pretty much busy. But plus, it's sometimes you're like going, you see a young actor, I want this, I want to get famous, and you're like, shut up, just work on the scene, man. Just make this little scene real. And
Enjoy
here's a
it.
big, and I'd say, here's a big thing: be more of you. Like a lot of Latinos are thinking, oh man, I got to do this, I got to do this, and it's not. They need to discover you because you are the most unique thing in the world. Is you. That's the part that I've come to realize and see because every famous person I've ever worked with is uniquely themselves. I mean, I remember Jennifer Lopez, great girl on Living Color. She was a fly girl.
Yep. Of
She'd come to
course.
my office and be like, "Do you think I could be an actress?" I go, "Hell yeah, you could be an actress. You're great." I could see it, and I would.
Back then, you could
Oh
see it.
yeah, back then you see. I would same Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx would come to my office. I mean, Tommy Davidson, you name it.
Rick, how did that happen? That show has so much talent. Like almost all of those people became legends almost in the world.
Yeah,
Like
it,
the show was impactful in itself, but then so many of them, so many of you guys, right?
it,
Went on to do so many great things. What
it,
was it that what was going on there? What were you guys eating?
I think the funny thing is we're eating really well. Number one, because we were so miserable doing that show that when the studio would come by and say, what food do you want?" And he was like, "I want sushi. I want you name off the best thing." They wouldn't necessarily pay you that well, but they'd feed you really well. So
But
that
the
was
food was good. The food was good.
everyone gained weight. Everyone gained weight. I mean, really. I mean, I
Except
literally
Jim. Except Jim. He was the
except
only
Jim.
one.
Jim was just too frantic. But it was a combination of when you're with really good people, they make you get better, honestly. So if I'm in a scene and I'm writing a sketch and it'd be Jim Carrey, guys like Robert Schimmel, all these great people in a room. Well, you have to be great. You just get to that level where it's like, okay, because you're topping each other. How about this joke? How about that joke? What about this? What about this? How let's do this. So the creativity meter is high, and I think there's the show of shows.
Yep.
Great shows that have come about. Sanford and Son. I've worked with those writers. It was Saul Turteltaub and people like that. But do you see where this comes from? Is it's like schools of really good talent that band together for a minute and create the most amazing stuff, and then go off in their own separate ways. I mean, I would look at it and I'd go, sometimes I get depressed. I go, oh man. I mean, I love John Leguizamo. He's a great guy, and I like what he's done, but it's like, oh man, he's had a few shows on Broadway. I just got one show on Broadway. Oh man, I got one show. That's all I got, and it's weird that to get a show on Broadway is like 1 billion to 1,
Yeah.
and but I'm like, got one. So you actually start to self-criticize so much. You're constantly level up of looking at stuff. Like I just finished a book I just wrote for Rodrigo Escoto, great guy, and about his father, Rodrigo Senior Escoto, and it's about Somoza, Nicaragua, and all these things. It was a really fascinating book, and I finished it. I'm he, I'm constantly editing the book, going, okay, I didn't say that right. Could I be better? So you have a natural desire when you're at that level to constantly top yourself, and it is sometimes makes you crazy because the truth I'm still going. I got to get another show on Broadway. I got to get another show on Broadway. And when is it enough? When is it where I go?
But I think you're enjoying the process. Like that's what we do. Like I mean, I'm a visual artist. I paint and
Mhm.
everything else. And I hate it when they say that's your best work. I'm like, no, but I still want to
Yeah,
keep, I want to keep trying to do the next one, right? So that's what it's all
yeah.
about, right?
That's
You want to do,
the agony and the ecstasy.
yeah,
The ecstasy is where you go, oh, this is great. The
right,
agony is afterwards. You're like, oh, I could have been better. I did miss this. I what why?
yeah.
And it's because we're constantly evolving. And I heard an interview with Tilda Swinton. I think it was how I pronounce her name. And she said, I've had friends who've been trying to write a record for 10 years and I've this and this. And she said, enjoy the process. Enjoy your process. This is part of it because the truth is, some of the greatest work has taken years to get done. Real Women Have Curves on Broadway is probably taken 30 years to get there. For me to get a show on Broadway, it took me 15 or 20. For me to write a screenplay that was done nothing at the holidays, took at least 10 years. So even these moments, and it happened to be that I'd written a hit, Latins Anonymous, and I'd done that show and got a lot of critical acclaim to be at LATC. And we only had enough money to do it for one weekend. And it became a hit, and we kept going. That sold me to Keenan to go, look, this guy's doing something right. So you're constantly taking successes and piggybacking and moving them up. But there is a point where I think that I would say you need to love your successes you've had because there's a line in a song I remember from. Sounds weird. I'm saying musical theater doesn't sound that Mexican cool right now, but Pippin. That's going to make me even less cool right now. And it goes,
You're cool, man. You're cool.
thanks. But he says, when dreams are done, to be with someone when dreams are done,
Hmm.
and that's the most beautiful image I think for of love, to dance with someone, to be with them when your dreams are done, to know it's enough that you're with someone who loves you and you love them. It doesn't matter, and the business we're in is very transactional. It's very much like you're liked because you're successful,
Yeah.
and you've got to kind of figure out at what point. Like I like Eddie almost no matter what. He's just a great guy. I mean, I
Right.
just and Luis Guzman, all these guys are great guys. If they're famous, great. Tell you the truth, most of the time, fame actually kind of interferes with our dinner conversations because you're talking to someone and someone's coming up, can I get an autograph or whatever it is. So fame's kind of a little bit of a burden, but like one time I was with Danny Trejo and we got snowed out in Denver or something. We're like, our plane had engine trouble. It was like, we're going to do a speak in Chicago. So our plane had engine trouble and landed in Denver. And they said, they disembarked me and Danny. And they're like, look, you may have to spend the night. And so me and Danny's like, what are you talking about? We spend the night. We'll get you the first plane in the morning. It's probably 6 a.m., but you guys spend the night. And they're like, you two will spend the night together. I'm like, nah, I like Danny, but I'm not sharing a room with Danny. I mean, not that I'm saying anything about him, but it's just uncomfortable to sleep, share a little room with anybody. It's like a jail cell. So, and he actually can't stand small rooms. He's jail
Oh,
cells. He
he's
went through
he went
that.
through that time.
So we stayed up. We stayed up in the airport, and me and him sat there like from 4 to whatever, and it was one of the best times I've had just talking to Danny about life and sitting there. And it was like it's funny because we're talking and talking, and as the airport's opening up again and people are starting to come in and walk in, they're recognizing Danny. They start to talk more to him and stuff. But I was like 3 hours, me and Danny alone, just talking was a great moment. With Eddie, I see him for breakfast a lot, and those are my favorite times. And I called him yesterday for Father's Day, and I'm like, "Hey, to a great dad," because something, he really is a great dad. I've never seen a man love his children as much as he does and concerned about them. But he makes families of he's so good that way. I mean, I see him with my children, just telling them, giving them advice.
Yeah.
Eddie's very dramatic. He's like, "You must believe in your." He's like, oh. I'm like, my kids are like, "Hey man, just came here for eggs, some bacon, all right? Just calm down, man." But his passion for what he believes in and who he is, it's amazing. I mean, when we lose him, they're going to lose a great guy, and that's the thing of all these guys. That's why I love doing interviews and talking about people because I want to preserve our
Of
history
course, of course.
because that's and I saw what you're doing with Chin.
With Uchi, go like this, go like
Uchin,
this, so they can be
Uchin, Uchin,
Uchi, Uchi.
yeah, I always thought I thought it was chingona. That's what I thought. Like, that's what I assumed. It was like chingona. All right.
Hey, we can use that.
Yeah. So, but there's a need for us to tell our stories and remember it. Because storytelling is the most fundamental things about human that differs us of any creature in the universe. That we tell stories.
Yeah.
And we see a story and we relate to the person in it. It's a mirror neurons. And I did TED Talk and I talked about it on writing because what I love to do is I love teaching writing. I love teaching writing because it brings up new people that can tell their story.
I gotta
Because
connect you to my son. My son is starting to write. He just did his master's degree in Alabama. He's gonna do his PhD in Binghamton University. He's writing, so I definitely connect you. I mean, I just threw that in there.
oh yeah, no, I'd love to connect. No problem at all. It's funny. A lot of people always assume I'm so busy. The truth is, I like to step away from whatever I'm doing to talk to this human being
Yeah.
because it's when you're writing, it's just this, you're in this tunnel. I just, it's like you get like pages, these like books I have to do constantly and projects and stuff like that, that I like taking breaks. I
Is
like,
any piece of any artist right now that has written a piece? Well, like in my case, when I saw Hamilton, right, by Lin
Mhm.
Manuel,
Yeah, great play.
he actually, obviously, you know, and the Heights, but then with Hamilton, to me, it was like, okay, this is revolutionary, it's new, it's fresh. Has any work inspired you that you've seen it recently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Songwriting,
inspired by a lot of times when I write, I put on music.
okay,
So musicals, things like that. See, things like it's like I like musicals because I like opera. So in
yeah,
other words, when emotion is so big, I have to sing. It comes into that. Like the emotion is so big, I got to dance. This is and to me, I'm at the writer level, so I'm dealing with this. But when you write, it's kind of like a symphony. So if I can have a music playing in the background, different things doing, it's inspiring me, and I can hear songs. I heard um, I forget this. TikTok's great because you see 3 minutes of something or two
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
seconds. But I
You're
saw a
probably the
clip.
only person that says TikTok is great.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, great for for if you, you know, heroin is great if you're going through, if you, anything's great, it's like LSD is great. It depends what it's used for. Uh, um, opium's great. It helped the Civil War. People in the Civil War. It was bad when they, got addicted to it. But I think for me, I saw, I think it was Cats, Katie Buckley. I think her name was Katie Buckley, sang a moment from Cats, and it was so profound and beautiful. And it was like, it was like this note that she hit that was so up there. It was great. And I read that she had studied watching homeless women in New York, and they would turn away from her always. And she put that in her like, cat song that she kind of turns away. And then when she really speaks, she looks at the person, and it's like, look at me, look at me. And that is so profound on so many levels that a lot of times homeless people are not discovered or seen or looked at. And that's the greatest need most human beings have. Recognize me, look at me, know me, understand me.
Right,
And that's what happens to us as Latinos when we go, look at me, look what we've done, understand me, look what we've overcome.
right.
And I've been very lucky to travel around the world and being things like that. Like I know the Dominican Republic, man. I went there and visited my good friend Elena Sotomayor. She produces Mark Anthony, so Mark Anthony's there, and they have a place. And but you know what I thought was the coolest thing? Mangoes. They're all over the place. It's like mangoes, man. I
It's
was like,
mango season right now, right now. I'm about to go to the Dominican Republic on
oh,
Thursday. It's mango
jeez.
season.
It's like I was like going, you know, I guess being in California, avocados. We have
Yeah,
avocados.
yeah, avocado.
But for me, mangoes, it was the greatest thing I ever saw. That you can actually grab a mango, pull it off a tree, and
And
have a
you,
mango.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then when in Puerto Rico, it was the coquí, the little frogs.
Yeah, the
Oh,
little frog.
just like the things you see, and you want to share that with people
Yeah,
because that's what an artist does. Artist goes, he looks at a marble, like Michelangelo looks at a marble and goes, "Do you see it? Do you see that? That's the Prieta, man. That's David. It's in there." Or Van Gogh looks at a canvas and go, "Do you see it? Do you see the sunflower seeds there?" And they'll
yeah,
paint the sunflower seeds. The agony is when they don't feel they painted the sunflower seeds well enough, or they didn't get the marble quite right. But to all of us, it's still amazing.
it's still
If we just do, if because we're surrounded by creation and beauty. God's world is amazing, and if we're as artists can do that, because I have a lot of philosophy about the stuff that I think about. Is I look at the Bible, and in Genesis it says God created man in His own image, or humankind, wherever you want to use the right pronoun to make it inclusive, but humankind. God created humans in His the image of God. He created them. That means we're created in the image of God,
right.
and God is a creator. So, isn't it natural that we are creators as well? And that's really what it's about nowadays: is being a creator, not a destroyer. And you think of the world we're in, where people destroy, and I want to be about creating. And that's the only thing that gives me hope. That I think, when I see these pictures of people being shot with rubber bullets. I went there. I was at the No Kings March in City Hall, right next to the sheriff's, the whole thing,
Right.
and I saw love, and not the way Trump talks about. Oh, it was a love fest. I actually saw it. People gave me sandwiches. They want to win over a Mexican, give them food every time. So it's like people were like, "Hey, you want a sandwich?" I was like, "Of course."
You got me.
The cynic in me is like, man, it could be Republican poisoning me, but I'm taking it anyhow. So sandwiches, they're giving me drinks and food, and everyone was good. I mean, there was a guy that walked up to me, and it was hard to sit down because it was so crowded. And I found a bench where I could actually sit down my sandwich. And this guy comes out, and he looks like, you know, he's got the mask on, everything's all black. I go, this guy looks like a writer, man. If anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be him. And he turns to me and goes, "You want Oreos?" And I go, you got Oreos? He goes, yeah, man. They gave me Oreos. You want some? She has Oreos. And I find people really like when I've shot in the worst places you can imagine filming. And early in my career when I was acting more, 'cause I played gangbangers, if you can imagine it. I played because that was Hollywood. They created Latinos. We had to play a gangbanger,
Right.
and it or not work. And a lot of times I would be like, no, I'm a classical actor. We're not going to do that. That's beneath me. And so I would look at my bank account and go, you know, I think I can play a gangbanger. My agent approached me. He said, I said, I'm not going to do any criminals anymore. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm putting my foot down. I'm not going to do it. He says, it's just Falcon Crest. They're a group of guys. They're a gang of guys, not gang bangers or anything like that. Just do it. So I go, okay, if you're Napa Valley Vineyards, okay. So I remember this is like early in my career. So I show up at the casting office dressed in a suit. And so I'm reading the material. I go, you tell that homeboy to leave my that if he comes back here again. And I'm like, it doesn't sound right for this character to say this. Like, don't you ever be coming in my neighborhood again. And so the woman looks at me and goes, get out, like kicks me out of the room. And I go, what the hell happened? And I call my agent and he goes, Rick, I kind of lied. It was a gang member. He's a gang banger. So I go, so a month later, I get a phone call from my agent. Hey, Falcon Crest called. They want to see you again. And I go, what are you talking about? They just kicked me out of their office. He goes, they don't remember it's you. So come dressed as a character that they don't recognize you. And so I was like, I was broke. I'm like, all right, man. It was like a summer storyline or something like that. So I show up in like a long coat, look like a gangbanger. And it's like, don't you ever walk into my radio again, vato. Don't you ever. And I'm like doing this thing. And they're like, oh my God, he's so
This is
gangy.
beautiful.
He's such a criminal. Yay. Yay, he's a criminal. Oh my God. So where'd you serve time? You know, they say I was at American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. I got an MFA, man. I know the streets. You know, I didn't say anything. I just got the job and showed up on the set. And the director's like, "Who are you?" I go, "You cast me. I'm Paco." And he goes, "You're not Paco." And I go, "Just give me a minute. I'll go to makeup. I'll come out." And of course, you know, they darkened me up and made me a gangbanger type. He's like, "Oh my God, you're so gangy." And that's what
And
back
your
in the
bank account grew a little bit.
yeah, and they would that literally they would ask you in a meeting. Well, this is a very street character. Have you ever been in a gang? And you're like, yeah, man, I've been in a gang. And so my gang was Los Consumers. We abused credit, man. It's like, but if you need to think that I was actually in a gang, I didn't get more
Those
award.
consumers.
Yeah, I was not awarded for being really good actor playing these roles. Like I took a gang role and because I was never in a gang. You know, I grew up around people like that. I saw it, but you know, I wasn't a gangbanger. I was in the drama club, you know. Like all like in Logan Heights where my family grew up, which is a total audio in outside of in San Diego. It's the hood, man. It's the full on hood. Yeah, I saw that. But I came from a family of really tough guys. So I never had to fight. I was like, you know, I didn't know what fighting was. You know, people would, I fought, only time I fought was I went to La Mesa and there's this white guy calling me a gangbanger. So of course I knew how to fight. So I beat him up. But I missed out that. And I think Dave Chappelle said it too, because I
Dave
didn't grow up
Chappelle
in the
said
hood.
it. I was about
Yeah,
to
it's
say
like,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I relate to it. And, but Keenan Peele, same thing. A lot of times you don't need to grow up really and be that because the truth is if you're really good at anything, in other words, if I was a white guy that belonged to a country club and all these other things, why in the hell would I ever write about anything but that? You know, just you live in your world. It's when you're not in it, you're fascinated by it, you're curious about it, you're seeing it, and you do the thing where you relate to it. You know, there's a part, but writers, we never belong anywhere. We're always outside looking in, you know,
Observing.
because
Yep.
we're not part of it. Because if I was a real full on Mexican, 100% fluent, although I do have my Mexican citizenship, so I do got my passport. But if I truly was Mexican, I would, if I was living in Mexico, I really wouldn't be Mexican because the rich guys I know in Mexico, like Eugenio Derbez and people like that,
They want to be something else.
well, he ate Cocoa Puffs when I went to his house. You know, it wasn't wheat lacoche and real ethnic food. You know,
Yeah,
so it's always about being something else, and that's what's
yeah,
great about being an artist. We can be other people.
yeah. I was gonna ask you to wrap up.
Yeah.
Punching. Tell me, what you seeing? Any advice?
I, I, the advice I would give is always it's literally the same because these are the lessons I've learned. Be more you. Whatever makes you who you are, explore that and enjoy it and say that because I remember working with Tiffany Haddish. I gave her first job, and Tiffany Haddish was a crazy woman, just crazy. She was more of her. I mean, and Whoopi Goldberg, I worked with Whoopi Goldberg. She was more Whoopi. I mean, just everyone's more of a Kate McKenna. They're more of them, whoever they are. Uh, because they're about celebrating who they are, you know, and that's what you should be doing, and you are. That celebrating who you are, uh, and because as marketplaces go, they'll eventually come to you if
Right,
you're true. If you're trying to figure out how to
right.
do Mexican food, I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be a deconstructed taco on a plate. All these thousand things. It's like if you can make a really damn good taco, man. I'm talking like,
Right.
like good street tacos. You put lengua. You're putting on there. You got the cebollas and the parsley, and I mean a real good taco is in itself perfection.
Yes.
And so the more you are yourself and who you are, the closer you are to perfection. You can always adapt, change, or what that, but so be more you are. And what you're doing is celebrating our culture, which belongs to every one of us. And we are a hue of everything because I can sit there and go, you are not the most perfect Dominican, and I am not the most perfect Mexican.
Yep.
And there is no one who is, because the most perfect Dominican is trying not to be a Dominican because they're
Yep.
at another level. And the most perfect Mexican is trying not to be a Mexican. They're trying to be something else. So we are all an evolution of who we are and who we were going to become. But, the basic things are say yes. If you get a chance to be, I've done this everywhere. It's like people want to interview me. Yes. People want help. Yes.
Right.
Just say yes because you don't know where it's going to lead. Literally, it happened to me where some guy asked me out for lunch. He says, I'd like to take you to lunch. And I'm like, this guy's like the producer of some show I knew. I'm like, why is he taking me to lunch? It's cool. All right, I'll go to lunch. I take this guy. Takes me to lunch, nice sushi dinner or whatever it was, some sushi lunch, and he goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you something." He goes, "You don't remember me," and I'm like, "Oh no, some bad thing. Was I a dick? Was I a horrible person to you?" He said, "No, no, no. I'm taking you to lunch because you're the greatest, most kindest human being I had met. I was new to Hollywood. I didn't know a single soul, didn't know a single person, and you invited me to lunch. You talked to me, you gave me advice, and I just always remember that. And I've kind of, the one thing I'm proud of, I can say, that all the people that most people that have ever called me up and said they knew me way back when have never said I was a bad guy. They may say they may be like one producer called me up and says, "Hey, I just want to tell you that you were really tough on me as a writer, really tough. You demanded the best from me." And he said, "I realized you believed in me and I could be the best. And because of you, I am. And thank you."
That's
And it's like good because normally when I'm tough on people, they're like, "Fuck that guy. He's a dick. He's the worst guy,"
yeah.
and all that stuff. But it really is out of love of going, look, I want you to be successful. I mean, I think I've encountered myself that I said a line in a play. I said, "My son is the best of me. He's better than me." And I like that.
I,
And that is a feeling that really, if you love someone, you want them to be better than you, have a better life than you, have everything better than you. You want them to have this world.
yeah.
So it is, when it comes down to it, it's very simple rules. Love your neighbor, you love God, you know, love people, and understand you're human. You're gonna make some mistakes, and say I'm sorry, made a mistake, try your best, and keep getting back up. That's the main thing. Just keep getting back up. Because even today I was depressed. I was like, oh man. I was thinking about some actor, or whatever, that got some job, and I was like, darn, I was up for that part, or I was that, and I'm like, no, it's good. I'm glad that guy got it because it comes at the right time. A friend of mine, he just produced a movie called A Million Miles Away about a astronaut, the a Mexican astronaut who was in the NASA space program called Million Miles. I saw the premiere in Mexico City. It was an incredible film, uh, and he produced that film. $25 million film, amazing artist. We were actors the same time in Hollywood, starting out, and we'd go out for these auditions like Falcon Crest and Hill Street Blues and all these other things, all these old shows.
Yeah.
We were just teenagers, and I went into an audition. He was there, and he says, "Oh, fuck, shit," and I'm like, "What did I do to you, man? What's going on?" He goes, I had three auditions. You were at three. You got the job every time. Three auditions, man. It's just I'm just sorry I said that. I'm just feeling down. And I said, well, most likely you're going to get this job. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, it's kind of a law of averages. Look at gambling. You're three times you've lost. It means your number is going to come up around 4 or 5 times. Maybe take that long. And which means I'm probably going to lose this audition. Truth is, I did lose the audition. He got the role. He was on a soap opera for 2 years, and that saved him his career and everything else. And then eventually got out of soap operas, started producing and stuff like that. And he's still a friend, Rick Tejas. And but that's what you have to remember: that sometimes it's not your time, it's not your role, but you just keep doing it. If it, I'm much more philosophical because I had brain surgeries. I had three brain surgeries. I was in a coma. I'll leave you a cliffhanger. So I had three brain surgeries in a coma, and I remember coming out of the coma, and I told a joke first off when I came out of the coma, but I thought about why am I here? What what's going on? Why did I return? So it is that constant question we all must have. Why are we here? What's the point? What's the purpose? So I pray for everyone to find their purpose and enjoy doing it.
I thank you so much. I stopped doing this 15 years ago because I ran out of money, and to connect my son with artists, I decided to bring back Unching. And I
Hmm.
started documenting his story and trying to connect him with people. And what this has given me is all those things that you just said: life, purpose. And it's answering that question to me right now. It's like, why am I here? And I think that that's what I want to be. I want to be able to, do a little bit, of,
Yeah.
you see that addition that person got, and then now it's leading to greater things. I hope that Unchin does that for everybody that I feature. I'm
I,
trying to.
I
I'm
yeah, I think it will. I mean, I really, I got a good feeling about when you guys called me. I saw the work and I thought this is good. This is really great. And you want to support Latinos that are doing good work and are trying because we're the ones that are trying to solve the problems and we're trying to make the world better. So why wouldn't you support someone doing that on any level? Just any level. I mean, just on any level you have a chance to give. Edward James Olmos always says, "You want to be a great man, teach a kid to read." You want to be a great person, give a smile to a homeless person and give him a sandwich. Do whatever. It's the little things that count, that grow up to be big things. And you don't wait for that. Yes, I would love to get another play on Broadway. I'd love one of my films to get made. A thousand things I would love. Um, but maybe it was enough that I, I, I inspired one person, and that's fine. And that's a lot of times it is. That's what it is. Be humble enough to realize you may not be famous, but you may give a lesson to someone that makes them famous. I was reading about Van Gogh. Van Gogh's wife, not wife, sister-in-law, Van Gogh's brother was an art dealer,
Yep, yep.
and basically Van Gogh sold one painting to him in his lifetime. His brother unfortunately died. They think syphilis or whatever killed him. He died. His widow always remembered the letters that Van Gogh sent to his brother and all that stuff. So she worked as a housekeeper and or ran a house, something like that, with people, or innkeeper, whatever it was. And she put together a collection of his work and did a showing in Paris and made him famous. Not the brother, not her. Van Gogh got famous and he never thought he'd be famous and changed the world because a woman cleaning bedrooms and keeping a house made him famous. It's the people around you that don't realize will help you. And you may be that person or you may be the artist. But either way, we're all part of the same travel, the same journey.
Thank you so much. I know that you said that you were depressed today, but indeed, I think this is the biggest gift I've gotten so far. Talking to somebody that I'm telling you from the heart, it feels, I feel the energy. I feel motivated like crazy because this journey is going to be long. And I think that the fact that you were motivated enough to give me this interview today has inspired me for a while, and I hope that this relationship continues. And I keep
Thank you.
asking you question and advice. Uh,
Sure.
and you got Unchin family here, so I'm gonna hope to go to LA or you come to New York, and we gotta do it this in person.
Thanks. My pleasure, man. Thank you so much. And good talking to you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Unchin, go like this. Unchin.
Winchin, Winchin,
Bendiciones, bendiciones.
Winchin, Winchin. This is a scary thing for guys. Winchin. As I
I know
said,
there's a comedian that came into the
yeah.
show. It's like, Unchin to me is the
Winchin.
size that I have between my legs because it's so cold out here.
Winchin, but I have a good personality. Okay. Winchin. But I'd like to hug. But I thought it was chingon. That's what I thought. It was like chingon.
Hey, listen, we could keep it on Qigong, whatever you
Okay.
want.
Thanks, brother.
Bendiciones, bendiciones.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Bye.
bye.